Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Narcolepsy Optimized podcast. My name is Jerry Moore, and over the past 3 years, I have dedicated my life to finding alternative strategies to live a better life with narcolepsy. And this podcast is a compilation of all the important research that I found, as well as the important lessons that I have uncovered along the way. And today's episode is one of the most important topics when it comes to having more energy during the day and living a better life with narcolepsy. And that topic is sleep. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how to adapt to get better sleep with narcolepsy. We're also going to talk about the 3 most important factors when it comes to getting better sleep with narcolepsy. And then at the end, we're going to talk about very specific action items that you guys can add into your routine today to get better sleep at night and in turn feel more energized during the day. Now, don't take any of this information on you guys here on this podcast as medical advice. You guys should do your own research and always consult with a medical professional before changing anything to your routine. All right, cool. Let's hop right into it. Now, when we talk about individuals with narcolepsy, I haven't met or talked to any narcoleptic that says that they don't get bad sleep. Nobody with narcolepsy says, I get great sleep, my sleep is good at night, I wake up feeling refreshed. That's just not who we are. And this is probably one of the primary issues when we're talking about daytime fatigue. Like, why do we not have energy during the day? Why do we not feel good during the day? Why are we always feeling the need to take naps during the day? This is the first issue we need to address. Because one of the things that I feel very confidently saying is that if you are getting in the 4 to 5 hour range of sleep every single night, you are most likely going to be tired during the day and you're going to want to nap and have that desire to nap. That goes for individuals without narcolepsy, and especially individuals with narcolepsy. It becomes even more difficult if this total amount of sleep is low and our deep sleep is low and our quality of sleep is poor. All right, and I think this is one of the primary misconceptions in the narcolepsy community is that we have this issue where we struggle feeling energized during the day. We have this daytime fatigue. Yet everyone is trying to solve the energy problem with feeling energized during the day. That's the first thing that they try to solve. They say, hey, I don't feel good during the day. I want to nap during the day. I feel tired. I want to feel more energized. What do I need to do? And the first thing they look at is, stimulants, coffee, energy hacks, vitamin supplements, whatever it may be. They're turning to all of these alternative strategies when the first issue that we need to solve is we need to get better sleep, period, end of story. If we're not getting, 6 hours, I feel like is kind of minimum level for me, and above that is only better. Like, I know for me personally, right now I'm averaging around 7.5 hours of sleep at night, and that is a good range for me. When I was sleeping in the 6 hour range, I was tired a lot. I was needing to lean on stimulants more. I was needing to lean on caffeine more, and I just wasn't feeling good, and my energy levels were very, very inconsistent. All right, so 5 hours, if you're in that range, is not enough. And I feel confident in telling you guys that throughout this episode, I'm going to give you guys tips and tools where you guys can actionably take these action items and improve on your sleep today in the next couple of weeks. And I feel confidently enough to say that is because the individuals that I work with, I require them to track their sleep. All right, I require them to track their sleep. And in the first couple of weeks, they average almost 2 hours more sleep. All right, so if you're one of those individuals out there that's saying, I'm not sure that I can actually improve my sleep, I feel confident that to some degree we can get better sleep, and I think these tools are going to help you guys. All right, so that comes to our first topic of the day when we're talking about getting better sleep is tracking your sleep. All right, if we don't know where we're at and where we sit, it is hard to gauge if we're getting better or getting worse. All right, so tracking your sleep is really, really important, and it's something that I recommend to anybody and everybody. Now, when we're talking about sleep tracking devices, obviously they're not at a level where they are hyper accurate right now, and that's okay, right? That's okay. We just are looking for some data that is going to tell us, are we improving or are we getting worse or are we staying the same? All right, and I'll leave some options for sleep tracking devices below, but some ones that I personally use, I have used the Fitbit Charge. and that's a great bang for your buck item, where it's going to be, give you decent sleep data. It's going to sit on your wrist, and that's going to be a good bang for your buck. The other one that I've used is the Oura Ring. That's going to be significantly more expensive, but give you better data as well. All right, so I'll leave links to those down below. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the three major topics that we're going to talk about today in this episode. So the first two topics that we're going to talk about is improving our master clock. Our master clock is what tells us when we are supposed to be awake and energized and moving, and when we are supposed to be asleep. All right, the third topic we're going to talk about is very specific action items to get better sleep at night. All right, so now I know the first question all of you guys are asking when we're talking about our master clock, when we're talking about our circadian rhythm, you're saying, Jerry, can I actually improve my circadian rhythm? We have a sleep disorder. Aren't our clocks broken? Right? And in fact, our clocks are not broken. All right, our circadian rhythm is not broken. So there was a study done that showed that individuals with narcolepsy do not have any deficiencies in their circadian rhythm or their circadian clock. All right, what we do have is a lack of ability to regulate our REM sleep. All right, that is the condition that we have. All right, so during the daytime, our body feels like it wants more REM sleep, and that's why we feel the fatigue and fall asleep. And at nighttime, our sleep patterns are irregular because our body struggles to regulate REM sleep. But this has nothing to do with our circadian, well, it does have something to do with our circadian clock, but our circadian clock is separate from this mechanism. All right, so what we want to do is we want to focus, how can we really, really tighten up and improve our circadian rhythm to improve our sleep? Because you can imagine if we have this deficiency and inability to regulate REM sleep, and then now we have a messed up circadian rhythm clock, we got all kinds of problems then, right? We're making things tough on ourselves, right? So what we want to do is we want to focus on the things that we can control, and we want to improve everything that we can control, and that is going to, optimize our body and optimize our mind, and eventually, hopefully, improve our symptoms along the way. Okay? So let's talk about how we can improve this master clock and how we can improve this circadian rhythm to feel more awake during the day and to get better sleep during the night. All right, so the first primary factor, the number one factor that controls our circadian rhythm or our internal clock is sunlight, all right, or light in general, but particularly sunlight, all right? So sunlight during the day is going to release the chemical cortisol. All right, now cortisol is related to energy, and we're not going to really talk about that too much in this episode. We're going to talk more about that in morning routine episode, all right? But just know that light equals energy, right? Light equals energy. Think of that. That's a good association for you guys to start. So when we talk about lack of light, when we talk about the opposite of energy, we would be talking about a chemical called melatonin. All right, now most of you have heard of this hormone melatonin, right? It's very, very popular. One of the most popular supplements in the entire world is melatonin, right? And melatonin is going to help us sleep at night. Now, many of you, when we think of melatonin, you guys may be using the supplement melatonin to help you sleep at night. But there have been many studies that show that melatonin might not be the best supplement for sleep. We'll talk about that in another episode when we're talking about sleep supplements. All right, but what I want you guys to know is that light will suppress the production of melatonin or the release of melatonin. All right, so when we're talking about getting better sleep at night, when we're talking about, okay, how do we get better sleep at night? Light is one of the most important factors, all right? So you could think during the daytime, we want more light, and during the nighttime, we want less light, okay? And that is going to tell our body that, hey, the daytime is ending, and we are going into this zone where we are going to sleep. It is going to increase the production of melatonin, and is going to allow us to sleep better at night, all right? So the first tip, the first actionable item you guys can put into your repertoire is decreasing the lights at nighttime. All right, and I start this process about 2 hours going before bed. It's going to vary from individual to individual depending on your routine. But what you want to do is right before you go to bed, you don't want to have all the lights on and the TV blaring and all of this stimulus this light stimulus into your system, because that's going to tell your body that, hey, we are still during the day, we should be awake. And then if you shut the lights off, you're trying to flip a switch on your body, and your body just doesn't work like that, right? It wants to slowly, gradually drift into sleep, right? If you think about if we didn't have electricity, what that would look like, all right? If we didn't have electricity, what that would look like is you would have sunlight during the day, and then at nighttime, most likely we would start a fire. So we would have this lower light grade, and then eventually after a couple of hours, we would fall to sleep. So if you can simulate that inside of your environment, that is going to help increase melatonin production and improve your quality of sleep and increase the ability for you to fall asleep easier. All right, so 2 hours before bed, try to decrease bright lights and especially overhead bright lights. So if you want to, really good option would be ground lit lights or lights that are lit at lower levels. Or just lower intensities. So if you guys have one of those switches where you can gauge the brightness of your lights, that's a great option to where as the night goes on, you slowly degrade this brightness of your light. If you guys don't have that option, use alternative lights and just try to reduce the powerful overhead lights. All right, don't underestimate this tip. All right, I know you guys, some of you guys are out there like, oh, light, Jerry, you want me to turn the lights off? Okay, whatever, yeah, man. What's next? What do you got next? Don't underestimate this tip, okay? If you guys try this for a couple weeks, I promise you guys see the difference, all right? So 2 hours before bed, start to decrease the intensity of those lights, working yourself down to no light, all right? Now, secondly, let's talk about the second most important factor when it comes to nightly, or when it comes to this circadian clock, the circadian rhythm, and that is our food intake, all right, our food intake. So sunlight is the first factor that tells our body when to be awake, and lack of light tells our body when to be asleep. And the second most important factor is our food intake, when we are consuming food, all right? So the second tip is to consume dinner at a consistent time. All right, consuming dinner at a consistent time is going to help set this clock so that your body knows, hey, I have dinner at this specific time, and then several hours later at this specific time, the lights start to lower, and now I am going to be prepared to sleep. You can see how you're kind of in a way training your body to know when to expect sleep, and that's exactly what we want. Right? Our body, unfortunately, doesn't work by internal thoughts and communication. We can't just think our way to sleep. We can't tell our body, okay, it's time to go to sleep now. It doesn't work that way. Our body works on our habits and our actions and the things that are happening in our environment. So when we consistently set these things into place, we are training our body to know when, hey, we need to be up during the day, we need to be energized during the day, we need to be awake, and then at this time at night, we need to be asleep and we need to be resting, right? And that is going to improve the quality of your sleep, right? So dinner intake, when we're talking about dinner intake, when do we eat dinner, right? That's a big question and a very, very important one. And I'm not going to get too much into the details on nutrition because I do have a bunch of episodes that I want to talk about nutrition specifically and timing and all of that stuff. But what's important for you to know now, the best time for you to eat dinner is between 3 and 4 hours between bed, between 3 and 4 hours between your bedtime. Okay, so let's say that your bedtime is 11 o'clock. You want to be eating your dinner between 7 and 8 o'clock, and that means completely finished. And one of the big reasons why this is important is because it takes 3 to 4 hours for our digestive system to clear. Right? And it's important to go to bed with a clear digestive system because we can't sleep and get deep sleep and digest food at the same time. So our body just doesn't work like that. These are two different systems and they can't operate at the same time. So when you eat a huge dinner, when you eat a big pizza, a whole pizza, and then you crash and fall asleep, your body is really struggling to digest that food and try to get sleep at the same time and try to stay awake. So what you're going to get is just crappy, disrupted sleep and undigested food. All right, so big problems all across the board. So stop eating food within 3 hours of bed. Within 3 hours of bedtime, no food. Shouldn't happen. If you guys feel hungry at that period of time, that would indicate to me that you're not eating enough food during the day, or you're not eating enough food at dinner. All right, so try to consume more foods, try to add some fats and some proteins in, and that's going to make you feel more satisfied. And you can also add some tea in at night to help just give you some taste and some something in your system to enjoy during this period. All right, we'll talk a lot more about this stuff in the nutrition section. Okay, the last thing, let's go ahead and talk about some actionable items and some specifics. All right, and this is going to be our nightly routine is what I'm talking about. And just as I talked about earlier, remember, we are training our body. We need to train our body so that it knows when we are supposed to be relaxed, when we are supposed to be asleep, when we are supposed to be awake, and when we are supposed to be energized. All right, and it needs, the more that we can set these clocks and the more that we can set these habits and the routines, the better our system is going to understand this, and the better you are going to perform, and the better you're going to feel. A crazy fact for you guys: every single cell in our body, works on a circadian clock. Every single cell. So when we think about how important is this, everything that's happening and operating inside of our body is working on a clock. So when we set these, it is going to significantly help us when we're talking about these factors, right? So what does a good nighttime routine look like? Well, how do we know what to do? Well, when we're thinking about our body and understanding, remember, our body doesn't understand thoughts. So when we try to think, go to sleep, be relaxed, it doesn't understand that, right? But that's what we want, right? We want our body to slowly be drifting into sleep and slowly be calming down and relaxing. All right, so when we're talking about the things that we're doing at night, play a huge factor into that. And one of these things that we're talking about is how we are entertaining ourselves. All right, and so if we are watching high action movies, we have the lights on bright, or watching a horror movie, right? These things are going to spike our adrenaline and spike our attention and give us an entertainment or a sense of entertainment, right? So we are training our body to be amplified at nighttime, right? And our body, if our body is amplified at nighttime, it is not going to be amplified during the daytime, right? It just doesn't happen like that. There's a period of time when it's going to have higher energy, and there's a period of time that it's going to have lower energy. So if we are training our body to have higher energy at nighttime, then we are training our body to have lower energy during the day, which is the complete opposite of what we are trying to do, all right? So this 2-hour window, when we're talking about dimming the lights in the 2-hour window, this 2-hour window is when we need to start training our body to enter a more parasympathetic state. And when I say parasympathetic state, what I am meaning is a more relaxed state, all right? So we have these two different states, this sympathetic state, which is our adrenaline or our hyped up state, and we have our parasympathetic state, which is our rest and relax state, all right? So we want to enter a more relaxed state. So what are things that we should do? Well, one, we should be avoiding high-tech stuff. We should be avoiding probably all electronics within an hour of bed. An hour is my rule. 2 hours is great, but honestly, I know in my life it sometimes can be a little bit unrealistic. So 1 hour is what I shoot for. All right, 1 hour of no electronics, the last hour of bedtime. So I have dim lights for the last hour. I'm just using a small bedside light. I'm reading, I'm listening to music, I'm conversating with my girlfriend, whatever that may be that doesn't include electronics. All right, because when we're using electronics, we are training our brain to be entertained, right? Entertained at nighttime. And that is not what we are trying to do. We're trying to tell it to rest, relax, stop thinking about things, stop thinking about work, stop thinking about other people. It is time to rest and relax, okay? And that brings me to the next point, and maybe one of the most important points, and that is talking about our bedroom, what our bedroom looks like. Now, most of you guys, if you're anything like I used to be, I'm not here to point fingers. This is how I used to be. I used to have a big-ass TV right in front of my bed. I used to have a TV in front of my bed. I used to have my phone next to me, and it was just entertainment zone, right? I would go and lay down, I would click on the TV, I would kick back, relax, pop through some social media, and that was kind of my nightly routine, and eventually I would fall asleep whenever I was tired. And again, as we're talking about training our body through routines, when we do this, we are training our body that our bedroom is a place for entertainment, right? So when we go and lay down in bed, our body not only is trained based off of the things we do, but is also trained on environments, right? And our room is an environment. Our room is an environment. And when we have TV and cell phones and all these things inside of our bedroom, when we enter the bedroom, our body is now expecting entertainment, right? It is asking, hey, where's the cell phone? Where's the social media? We want to watch something on TV, whatever it may be, right? And that is, again, the complete opposite of what we want to do. Our bedroom is our sleep temple, all right? Take out anything else in your bedroom and just think about this as your sacred place of sleep, all right? Sex is okay in the bedroom and sleep is okay. Those are the two things you guys are allowed to do in your bedroom, all right? No other forms of entertainment as far as electronics go, because we are trying to train our brain and train our body that when we enter bed, we are going to be sleeping, all right? That is what we're going to be doing, all right? So that is your next action item is to take all of these electronics, take all of these things that stimulate your mind and make you want to reach for them and play with things, take them out of your bedroom. Make your bedroom simple and relaxing, all right? Because that is what the bedroom is designed to be. It's designed to be our place of sleep, right? It is not designed to be our place of entertainment. That is your living room, right? If you guys want to have a TV, put it in the living room. If you guys want to watch TV, watch it in the living room. Be entertained in the living room, right? So that you know when you're in that area, you can relax and watch TV. But when you go to bed and you go into your bedroom, it is now time to relax and enter that parasympathetic state. All right, so all these things are going to train your body to be able to sleep easier at nighttime. All right, and the last thing to add to this routine is to set a consistent bedtime. All right, set a consistent bedtime. And I know you're like, oh, I know when I first had narcolepsy or I was first diagnosed about 10 years ago, this was something that my doctor told me. He said, set a consistent bedtime and set a consistent wake up time. And I was like, yeah, sure, doc, whatever you say. Whatever you say, like, just give me the pills and let's go forward. Let's move forward. Well, it turns out he was right. All right. He turns out he's a little bit smarter than me. And setting a consistent bedtime is really important. Again, when we're talking about setting our clocks, setting our habits, setting our routines, and telling our brain and body when it's time to shut down and when it's time to be awake, right? So setting a consistent bedtime. So consistent bedtime can range about 30 minutes either direction, all right? So for me, that's around 11 o'clock. That's around my bedtime. Sometimes it's 10:30, sometimes it's 11:15, but that's about the range of my bedtime. And you guys want to try to schedule this stuff so you can see how all these habits would kind of fall into place, right? 2 hours before we start dimming the lights, 1 hour before we cut off all electronics, and 3 hours before we finish our dinner, 2 hours, cut down the lights, 1 hour before we're cut off all electronics and we're starting to read and really relax, and then we really dim the lights. And then eventually we're just going to drift off into sleep, all right? Now, know that this is going to take some time to implement, all right? You guys are going to try this tonight, and you guys are going to find that you're going to be reaching for your cell phone. You're going to want to be entertained, right? And if that is the case, this is a perfect example of understanding how your clock works and how your current clock is set. If you were wanting to reach for your cell phone, if you're wanting to turn on the TV, that is a perfect example that you have trained your body to expect these things at nighttime. And we need to change this expectation. We need to change these routines. All right. So I would highly recommend you guys shutting off your phone or putting your phone away from you. That's what I do for my phone. I put it away from me. 1 hour before it goes in a drawer, or it stays in the kitchen, or it stays in the living room. I don't touch it. Right? I don't want to see it. I don't want it near me, because if I see it, if it's in my sphere of grabbing, like if I can reach and grab it, I'll just grab it, and then 5 minutes later, scrolling through social media or watching YouTube, I'm like, what the heck happened? I just broke my routine, right? It's that easy to break this, all right? So I like to keep the cell phone out of the room, or out of my reach at least, to where I have to get up and physically grab it. Turning off all the notifications, turning off all the noises that's going to make, let yourself get down into that deep parasympathetic state, all right? So again, this is going to take time. The first week, this is going to be challenging. The second week, this is going to get better. The third week, you are going to like it. All right. So that's about how long it's going to take for you guys to implement this stuff is 2 weeks. All right. 2 weeks, you need to commit to it. And then after that, you could say, Jerry, this was great, or Jerry, this was crap. If you try it for one night and say, Jerry, this was crap, well, I told you it's not going to work that easily. All right, we need to train our body and train our brain and change things. All right, so give this 2 weeks and it's really going to help you guys. All right, if you guys want a more in-depth podcast episode on sleep and how sleep works and these tactics that I talked about, I definitely recommend checking out the Huberman Lab podcast. I will leave that link below for those episodes. Definitely recommend checking it out for you nerds that want a little more science stuff like me. I love the science stuff. It's a very good podcast, very in-depth podcast. If you guys enjoyed this podcast and you want to support me in my work, trying to share this information and continue my research on narcolepsy and helping other individuals, you guys can do that by leaving me a review, right? It takes about 30 seconds. Go on the podcast link, leave a review on what you think of the podcast. Go to the YouTube channel and any of that stuff. I would love to connect with you guys on social. I'm most active on Instagram, so if you guys want to go and follow me there, it's Optimized Narc, Optimized NARC. That is my handle. I would love to connect with you guys and chat more. Besides that, excited for the next episode. We're going to talk more about sleep, and we're going to be talking about sleep supplements. So I will see you guys in that next episode.